Hey, what's going on YouTube? Zimoli53 Game here. Today I'm bringing you guys a class setup for the Holger in Warzone. Normally, the Holger was kind of overlooked because of the recoil and it didn't hit really hard, but with the new update last week, it got a buff along with the Bruen Nerf. So a lot of people have been running the Holger, so I thought I'd give you guys a class setup. I will show you guys the whole class setup at the end. Typically, it's made for medium to like longer range combat. Close range, I would still stick with like an MP5 or an MP7, kind of whatever you're comfortable with. But if you guys do enjoy the video, please drop a thumbs up. And if you guys are new, please subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss a new video. And I did want to mention, I do live stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and occasionally Sundays. Tuesday, Thursdays, I start at 8 p.m. Fridays, I start at 7 p.m. And Sundays typically vary. I usually tweet out when I go live. I will link my Twitter in the description down below. Check me out there and stay up to date with me. Hope you guys enjoy the video. So before I get into the video, I'd just like to ask you guys if you guys do enjoy the video or if you guys do find any value from it, please guys share it with your friends, get it out there. Kind of want to share this with as many people as possible. But getting into the video now, we have the Holger, which honestly is probably one of the better LMGs for Warzone right now, since the Bruen absolutely got wrecked with the updated Nerf like yesterday or 2 days ago. But I've been running the Holger a lot lately, and it's really good for longer to medium range combat. So like where we were shooting at those guys on the hill, that's kind of ideal, more or less, unless you're running like an SMG, in which you'll be better up close. But mainly for the Holger, I would try and stick to medium to long range. Like those guys jumping off the building, I definitely wouldn't recommend shooting at them because you'll get 1 or 2 shots and then they'll kind of know where you guys are at. And in this instance, we had to push into circle just like they did, so they could have easily gotten into the circle and then kind of gatekeeped us, which we should have played more aggressive and like got into the circle sooner so we could have gatekeeped them, even though they were sitting on hospital, which to me, I was kind of worried about them trying to like shoot us while we ran into the circle. So we let them push into circle and then we pushed after, but I think we did end up getting the kills on them, so I'm not super concerned about that. But I would say mounting with this thing, if like medium to longer ranges, is going to be your best bet because it does reduce the recoil a lot. However, there are some attachments I did leave off that help with the recoil just because I needed the other attachments. I thought, like with the monolithic, I like to stay off the radar, but for control of recoil, you could add like the compensator or one of the other muzzles. But personally, I like running the monolithic just to stay off the radar and while keeping the range. But ultimately, you could run kind of whatever muzzle you wanted. I didn't really add any barrels, or I didn't add a barrel at all, mainly because both of the barrels shorten the Holger, which they add aim down sight speed, and the other one adds both aim down sight and movement speed, which if you're looking to play this more of like an AR, you could put one of those barrels on, but for me, I was trying to run it more like an LMG. So I left the barrel as long as it was, left the stock, threw on sleight of hand, left the 100-round mag, just because I didn't really want to be reloading after 30 bullets every time. It would be so clutch if they had like a 60 or 50-round mag for the Holger, but I can't see that coming anytime soon if it hasn't already, so we're going to have to live with either the 100-round mag or the 30-round mag if you want to run it more like an AR, kind of like the G36C from MW, the original COD 4, or from MW3. But personally, I would say run this as the LMG. You're going to have better gunfights, better luck, all that stuff, because you do get 100 bullets, and like it's not going to take you 50 to kill somebody, even if you are shooting them at like a range. But for the most part, I ran with I believe it was the Ranger foregrip, just because the Ranger does control recoil and adds a little bit of aiming stability, which with most ARs, LMGs, SMGs, stuff like that, the aiming stability is not going to do a whole lot, just because aiming stability is more for like the idle sway of a weapon. which if you look down the scope of a sniper, you see kind of like the sway of it, which that would be more of a case where if you could add like the aiming stability attachment for a sniper would be more ideal because it would kind of keep it straighter for you. But in this instance here, we pushed into stadium, killed the most wanted, and then we got 2 other guys. I would not have ran in there with the Holger, or if I had like a sniper as a backup, just because with the Holger, it doesn't shoot super fast, but the bullets hit a little bit harder. So I probably would have been dead if I walked in there with the Holger, but luckily I was running the SMG and MP5, so I ran in there with the MP5 and got both the kills, with the help of a teammate, of course. Definitely recommend using your teammates versus fighting teams alone, unless you're, good enough to do that, but I'm personally not there yet. Maybe COD 2020 we'll try that. But even here, like, we're fighting squad probably 200, 250 meters away. They got snipers. Should we be shooting at them? Probably not. We don't really have anything. I know 2 of our guys were running snipers, and then 2 of us had LMGs and SMGs. So we did okay against them. We had circle, so they had to push to us. So we could have just got into circle and kind of gatekeeped them, but we're not the brightest of players. So typically, I prefer to push early in the circle, early in the game, get into circle, gatekeep it, and then later into games, I typically run with the circle, the last like 2 circles, just because if you do end up going into the final circle or like the second last circle, before the gas comes, typically there's people camping in buildings and everything like that, regardless of where the final circle is. But if you do get lucky enough to get a final circle outside like we did, like this, we're just kind of pushing with the gas, get a little bit into the circle. We kind of know nobody's behind us, maybe up the hill to our left, but for the most part, nobody's behind us. Most of the enemies are in front. There was like 5 or 6 teams at this point, so they all had to be in the trees or down into lumber, coming up into the circle. So we just kind of stayed where we were, managed our spots, and ended up pushing into the circle as the gas came. And then once the circle moved again, we got into the circle, set up, had like everybody look in every direction, just because we knew like they'd be coming from 3 or 4 different directions. And then we ended up pushing into like, there was a bunch of rocks where we were, so we did get lucky with that. You could like dip behind them, reload, or plate up, whatever you had to do. And then here you see those guys on the hill. I didn't really want to shoot at them, but they were sniping at us, so I figured, screw it, let's down them. Like there, the Holger, there is a little bit of recoil to it with this setup, but it is manageable. And like, you see like down that kid in what, 6 shots that actually hit out of the 15 or 20 I took. Even here, hit the guy for like 4 plates. I didn't crack him, but if I would have cracked him, he would have been like 2 shots. Even at this distance, the Holger does hit heavy. Not as heavy as say like the Scar or the Odin, even though those are assault rifles, comparing the difference. But the Holger will hit fairly hard for an LMG. Not as hard as the M91 either, but definitely I'd say it hits harder than the Bruen right now, since the Bruen did just get mad nerfed with the recoil and everything else. But the Holger did get a buff as well. They added damage range to it, increased the ADS speed, or decreased it, I guess. Whatever it is that they could sped it up. So typically you could run any sight on this. If you like the iron sights, by all means run the iron sights. You get another attachment. I'm not a huge fan of the Holger iron sights, but I'm not a super long range AR fighter either. Like if I'm going long range, give me a sniper all day. So I throw on a 1x GI Mini Reflex, only because I don't like the basic sight of the hollows, which is a 1.5 zoom. So typically I would try to run a 1.5, maybe a 2x zoom, if that's what you're comfortable with. But once I get the blue dot for the whole hollow sights, I feel like I'll be running the hollow a lot more, just because it does give you that little bit of like zoom in with the 1.5. But it is what it is. And even here, you guys see, we pushed into the circle, got behind the rocks. I got downed because didn't see the guy right away.
Let's go.
And then he kills himself to his own cluster. Popped myself. I don't even think I played it up, but
What'd you have, like 12?
we ended up getting the final guy for the dub. First dub in a while, so glad I can finally get a dub on video for you guys. But that was the Holger, and my buddies were running the Bruen, and then like M4 and a sniper, and I think my other guy had a Bruen and a sniper. But typically, if you're gonna want to be mobile, I would run an SMG with the Holger, just because the Holger's not mobile at all, especially with the way I have it. So running around the map, you can run with the SMG, so you get a little bit more movement. And then if you do run up into anybody that's like close range, you at least have something that is viable close range. Being like the MP5 or the MP7. I mean, you could even run the Uzi with the new barrel and the new rounds. But I would say MP5, MP7. And getting into the class setup, we have the monolithic suppressor, the GI mini reflex, the Ranger foregrip. We had rubberized grip tape, and then I had sleight of hand just for the reload speed.